We have a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. Joe Biden can be sending out the fourth stimulus check in 2023, and we're ready for him to do so. First of all, new progress is being made on the latest relief proposals. Legislators in the state of Minnesota have just proposed a release detail. The good news is that the plan includes cash back to Minnesota residents, and representatives have even said that the bill makes the largest tax cut in Minnesota's history. But these just aren't any tax cuts. The cuts in this bill are targeted to those who need it the most. The proposal mostly benefits the low income and middle income people. This proposal has several provisions as well, including a one-time rebate check of $275 per taxpayer, plus more for up to 3 dependents. It means a family of 5 could live and see $1,300 if they make less than $75,000 a year as a single filer, or $150,000 as a married couple filing jointly. Now, the bill stops short of a full exemption of Social Security income from state tax for all the seniors, which is a top Republican priority that several Democrats in the Senate also said they support. According to the Minnesota Department of Revenue, half the filers don't pay taxes on Social Security right now, but these changes mean that 76% of seniors would pay no taxes on those benefits. There's also a $100 million boost to state aid to cities and counties so communities can provide some public services without levying huge property tax increases. The proposal includes credits and rebates, but also new tax changes to bring in more revenue on an ongoing basis since most of the budget surplus is one-time money. It creates a fifth income tax bracket of 10% for married couples making more than $1 million a year and individuals making $600,000. The current highest tax bracket is 9.85%. The stimulus checks and other types of crisis-era relief greatly impact the economy, and Congress has already created trillions of dollars into the economy, helping Americans cover some of their basic living expenses and also pay down debt. Because according to experts, the same theory should apply to the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness plan. Some people have their debt wiped out, while others will believe for their lower monthly student loan payments. The amount of student loan debt in the United States has reached a staggering $1.76 trillion, as according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Most students now take out student loans to attend college, with the average student graduating with $29,000 in debt. That means many students graduate with even more debt, which can make it more difficult to keep up with student loan payments while paying for everyday necessities. After its announcement last August, the Supreme Court has blocked Biden's plan to forgive up to $20,000 in federal student loan debt. Until a final decision is made, everyone with student loan debt is going to remain in limbo. If the plan passes, the White House estimates the program will provide aid to over 43 million borrowers, and an estimated 20 million borrowers will see their remaining debt balance canceled. Nearly 90% of debt cancellation will actually go to borrowers earning under $75,000 a year. Analysts have already noted that the Biden's plan includes provisions to cap monthly payments for undergrad loans to 5% of the borrower's discretionary income. And this could help so many people gain more stimulus checks, everybody, in 2023. The IRS has released some very important announcements. Millions of you guys can expect to receive some bonus relief payments this month.
And by the way, there are a lot of jobs coming to people that you're going to need to train up people, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Everybody knew, and you heard from my secretary a little bit earlier, America's falling behind in infrastructure.
But there is a deadline. Taxpayers have just a few weeks left to claim this money. And so, here is some big news. The IRS is sending refunds to more than 1 million Americans who filed their taxes late in the early days of the crisis. But there is a new deadline. The agency has announced that taxpayers have until September 30th to take advantage of this new relief. Typically, people who file their taxes late without requesting an extension can expect to pay penalties of up to 25% of the amount of taxes that they owe. For 2019 and 2020, however, the agency is suspending taxes or the penalty for those taxes for late filers. Taxpayers who have already paid a fine will automatically be given refunds, the IRS said. And more than 1.6 million people are set to receive refunds or credits totaling $1 billion. This is an average of $700 per person. Although some of you guys may get more and some may get less. The IRS said taxpayers who have already filed their returns don't need to do anything. If you've been notified of a fine but have not yet paid it, the penalty will be erased, and while those who have already paid the penalty will receive a refund or credit, most of the refunds will be delivered by the end of this month. So that's some good news to look forward to. And according to the IRS, taxpayers who have yet to file returns for 2019 and 2020 can still have penalties forgiven, as long as their returns are filed by September 30th, 2022. That gives late filers just over 2 weeks to wrap up outstanding returns. Now, the effort is to move to help struggling taxpayers affected by the crisis, and the plan can also help the agency, which is struggling to dig itself out of a massive backlog of unprocessed tax returns. In a notice, the IRS said the crisis had an unprecedented effect on the tax agency, highlighting the agency's roles in distributing stimulus payments and taking other steps to help taxpayers weather the crisis. Dropping late filing penalties could also benefit the IRS by helping the agency focus on whittling down its backlog of tax paperwork and returning to normal for the 2023 tax season. Several House Democrats are facing tough re-election bids, as well as one congressional hopeful, and they are defending their party's expansion of the IRS that was included in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which does little to immediately address inflation in America. The measure, backed by Joe Manchin, successfully passed through the Democrat-controlled chambers last month and was signed by President Biden. It will grant an $80 billion boost to the IRS over a 10-year period. The billions of dollars for the IRS from the measure will go towards filing 87,000 IRS positions, Social Security beneficiaries. Rising inflation also means more retirees will end up being taxed on their benefits, and when Congress introduced Social Security taxation in the 1980s, it set income thresholds and avoided indexing them for inflation. On the positive side of this, retirees whose costs are rising more slowly than the official inflation figures will benefit from the latest cost of living adjustments, according to the U.S. Labor Department. And Bernie Sanders and Peter DeFazio have introduced the Social Security Expansion Act, which would, among other measures, boost benefits, adopt the Consumer Price Index for the elderly, and subject all income above $250,000 to the Social Security payroll tax. However, Democratic Representative John Larson has also proposed a Social Security reform bill. His bill adopts the CPI index for the elderly as the basis of the annual COLA and applies the payroll tax to annual wages above $400,000. Experts say that Larson's bill includes more benefit improvements than the DeFazio-Sanders bill, but DeFazio-Sanders extends solvency for significantly longer than the John Larson bill. Now, everybody, officials are warning Americans of a global food shortage. The Biden administration is working to address several issues that the American people are currently facing. During the crisis, Americans across the country got a little extra help from stimulus checks, but for most of us, it's been a while since one has hit our bank accounts. And Georgia's governor recently signed Bill 1302, which is a new law attempting to offset the rising cost of inflation by refunding some money back into the hands of taxpayers. We've seen inflation hit the South pretty hard, as housing and rental prices in southern cities continue to skyrocket on an upward trend, leaving some wondering if it's time to relocate. And the amount you receive will all depend on the marital status, dependence, and how filed your